Good afternoon, sir.
You're welcome.
My name is Dr. Eugene Himati Atamewa from the Department of Sustainable Architecture.
Good afternoon, go on. Good afternoon, go on. Dr. Eugene.
I want to appreciate the organizer for giving me this privilege to deliver this paper titled Landscape Planning, Foundation for Sustainable Green Infrastructure Planning in Developing Countries, a case study of Calabar. As a way of introduction, there is a constant pressure being mounted on the environment due to the provision of social infrastructure and services, either by agencies, government, and individuals, that have resulted into environmental degradation and unsustainable spatial planning. Green infrastructure planning has been introduced as a way of mitigating the effects of climate change and other environmental hazards for the benefit of humanity. The primary goal of green infrastructure planning is to develop multifunctional networks around regions and neighborhoods, according to ASEM 2015. Green infrastructure planning can also be viewed as a field that is embedded within the landscape planning. And that's why in this paper, the effort is concerned with green infrastructure at the level of landscape planning, where conservation and protection of species, green areas, road network, and habitat connectivity are most important. And I have decided to take Calabar as a case study because Calabar Cross River State maintains a very high strategy on landscape and green infrastructure planning in Nigeria today. Works of several scholars under literature review have been gone through, and so many authors are of the opinion that green infrastructure, landscape planning are embedded in the study of architectural landscape. Therefore, we have to highlight what each of these concepts means. For instance, landscape architecture talks about a professional academic discipline that combines the various principles of physical and social sciences in process of environmental planning, design, and conservation, while landscape architecture comprises of three distinct areas, namely landscape planning, landscape design, and landscape management, according to SCIENCE 1994. Landscape on its own is an area professed by people whose quality and features are product of the actions and interactions of natural factors and human factors. In other words, the actions of environment itself and other environmental landscape. On the other hand, green infrastructural plan is a concept that consists of methods and approaches of strategic planning intended at creating networks of green and blue spaces in urban areas, planned and controlled to bring a broad variety of ecosystem. And this is to the benefit of human beings. Having experienced the adverse effect of degradation of the environment, it therefore boils down that the environment has to be planned in such a way that the landscape takes care of the degradation, thereby reducing the effect of this degradation on human lives. The methodology of study included review of literature, then the study of policy statement of the government of Cross River State, which is the area of study, then personal observation and checklist method. Thereafter, purposive and expert sampling techniques we employed using 50 respondents who are professionals in this field, in the environment, and other developers and housing unit owners within Calabar Metropolis that were interviewed in order to determine their level of involvement and participation in the landscape process of the state. Then using the checklist and content analysis method, data collected were analyzed to determine the sustainability or otherwise of the green infrastructure planning on the city. And the result is presented in teams accordingly based on prevalence and significance. Also, pictures were equally used to enhance the quality of the production. The discussions and findings are such that were based on landscape planning principles which serve as checklists for the determination of the degree of sustainability of the urban green infrastructure in Calabar. Under participation, the study observed that based on the interview granted to some of the staff of both the Ministry of Environment and the Cross Calabar Urban Development Agency, CUDA, it shows that they only play some supervisory role during execution. In other words, most of these landscape planning contracts were given out to outsiders, especially political affiliates, and these offices, ministries that were supposed to handle the landscape, especially the Ministry of Environment and the agency, CUDA, Calabar Urban Development, they're just there, just being assigned to supervise. Then on maintenance, it was observed that the maintenance is highly selective, as only areas around the government house, state avenues, and Calabar, there's what we call Calabar Carnival route that enjoys the attention of this landscape area. It's only this area that are maintained, apparently because during festive period, this is where people are made to walk through to show the beauty of the environment of Calabar Metropolis. Under waste management, it was discovered that the method of waste management or disposal is very poor and is usually not timely enough, as various waste collection points across the city have become eyesores and center of disease outbreak. Another principle of sustainability was equity and accessibility. Observations have shown that only a portion of the city center, CBD, enjoy landscape planning, while a larger portion of the metropolis are left out. This place is Calabasa, which is ideally supposed to be the main hub of the Calabar city. But when you go around, you discover that only the area such as the GROA has advantage of this landscape planning. Then on policy documentation, going through the state policy on environment, it was discovered that they don't have any documented landscape planning policy that will sustain the green infrastructural planning. In conclusion, it is discovered that the lack of collaboration and support of the landscape planning project by all stakeholders, non-documentation of the policy on urban grand plan, has led to weak supervision and enforcement by the ministry and agency. Therefore, the sustainability of the green infrastructure and landscape planning in Calabar is being threatened. The need for adequate coordination and participation resulting to a productive, organized, scheme-based sustainable development very, very imperative. And therefore, the study is recommending a regular and holistic maintenance of the green infrastructure across the entire Calabar metropolis. And all important landscape elements like waterways and canals should be constructed and existing ones maintained in order to check erosion and flooding, which have become a normal norm in Calabar. Similarly, landscape planning should be extended to cover the entire city of Calabar. And finally, there's an urgent need to document government policy on landscape and green infrastructure planning in the state. And also, it should be embedded in the policy of the statutory urban planning development process to make it more enforceable and sustainable. Thank you very much for listening.